I know you said you want to be like the Tom Ford of women.
Day. Yeah.
Yeah, of everyday women.
Everyday woman. Yeah.
When did you realise that the stress of starting this thing was less than the potential opportunity?
I don't know if I ever realised that. It's been really, really hard every step of the way. But again, something in my core just says, keep going.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but I would have these days where it would be like, tens of thousands of dollars worth of stocks come in faulty, even though we've worked tirelessly with factories to explain to them about thread tension and how we want things finished and all of that. And I just remember being in the bathroom. I still do it, actually. I don't know. It's, just being at complete breaking point and just going, these are the defining moments of success. Like, people either give up or they push through. Yeah. And I think credit to my upbringing and that real tough, work harder, keep going, I just keep going.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned like Elon Musk is like one of the entrepreneurs that you looked up to or do look up to.
Yeah.
That quote is entrepreneurship is like chewing broken glass and staring into the abyss.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
But it's fucking true, right?
Yeah. Oh, literally. Well, I always refer back to this analogy of it's like jumping off a cliff and assembling a plane on the way down and hoping to God you don't hit the ground before you work it out.
Yeah, pretty much. That is exactly it.
Yeah.
But that's also like what makes it so exciting as well, I find.
It's a thrill. And I think for me, I know like the security of getting paid a weekly wage is, for most sane people, a great way to go.
Yeah.
But I am one of those people where I just thrive from creating and, again, following my passion. And I it's not for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be a great employee, to be honest.
Yeah. I would say that it is like having been an employee, it's tough.
Yeah.
Particularly when you've got that strong-willed mindset and you have an idea of what you want to do and someone tells you this, it's like...
Well, yeah, someone's dictating, from my uni lecturers to the bosses that I had when I was younger, it was always like, no, you should do things like this, or no, we don't like this, we want it done like this. And it's like, for me, I just want to express what's inside. And I don't think someone telling me what's right and wrong is right for that, because it's what I want to bring to the world.
Yeah. Do you, like in the early days, I think things moved pretty quickly. I was reading in one of these things, it sort of seemed like from day one out the back of that fabled family workroom, it was just bang, bang, bang. What was sort of, before you took on the investment, what were the highs and lows of that period, or was it all highs?
Like when we were developing the brand?
Yeah.
It's all such a blur because I think it really did take off so quickly. I kind of went from, okay, let's try this out. And I had my friend who was pattern making at the time. We were just making a couple of pieces. But the demand through Instagram was so quick that not having that technical knowledge in fashion, it took its toll.
Yeah.
It took its toll because I think I'm an ideas person. So I'm putting out these ideas, but I didn't have the technical knowledge to execute. So I was always relying on others to make that happen. And then I learnt about a lot really quickly through a lot of mistakes about stretch garments and the correct thread tension and what to explain. And, even now with Bayse Brand, when I'm working with these big factories, I'll say, no, you need to do this. And they'll say, no, that's not possible. And I'm like, listen, mate, I've been in this industry for 7 years. I have made every mistake under the sun. I know what's possible. Go back and make it happen.
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah. It was in hindsight, was there a mistake that you made that seemed pivotal at that moment, but in hindsight seems almost childish. And the example I'd give for myself is that I remember working in hospo and I dropped a glass, like I was carrying a tray. I used to work at the press club when I was at uni. And so I'm walking behind this table and I've got this tray of like wine, beers, everything. And I said to this person, like, excuse me, just walking behind you there, like tell them. And then they just get up. They get up and the tray like, and went all over them.
Stop.
Yeah.
Worst nightmare.
So that's like probably one of those things. But in hindsight, I just, now what it's meant is it means in any sales, discussion, conversation, whatever, I don't give a fuck about anything. Everything's on the table. I can't be embarrassed by anything.
Yeah.
Because I've done that to someone.
Yeah.
Is there something like that you have?
I think that there were lots of mistakes made in terms of like production and all that kind of stuff. But the most pivotal one would be to have brought on an investor and to not have trusted my gut, because essentially Zachary was like your tray.
Yeah.
And you kind of know and you can see it, and then it all collapses. And you know why when you look back in hindsight. But things like that happen so quickly. And I think for me, that was the biggest mistake.
Do you think at that point, because it sort of seems like in prior interviews you've spoken about the fact that that A-type mentality, you want to grow fast, right? But now you have to temper it.
Yeah.
Was that what drove you to get the investment? I know your old man was against it at the time. He was continue working in this workroom. But you're like, scale.
No. For me, it was I had to keep up with the demand, and both my dad and I did not know what a beast stretch garments were. And we were producing things and really doing our best. But, with stretch, and particularly like for us, it's double layered. So this T-shirt, for example, is single. It's double layered. It's got to be sewn with a particular thread tension, and then any plain stitching has to be sewn with that correct tension. Otherwise, you get a hole and it's a faulty garment.
Really?
So I had no idea about how delicate that whole kind of process is. And if it's not done correctly, you're producing faulty garments. And we were learning on the go. And my dad's very like, oh, yeah, but, things happen. And, it doesn't matter. What, you think the majors don't have these issues? And it was like, I'm such a perfectionist that was really getting to me.
Yeah.
And I, if I'm honest, I felt at the time people had experiences with Zachary where, holes had, appeared in their garments through, wearing them. And I wanted to nip that in the bud. Yeah. And I didn't know. And I think that for me, being such a perfectionist and so driven, not knowing is the most frustrating thing. And I felt like I was clutching at straws every time I was trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And I guess, I was approached by someone who claimed that they knew. So I went with that. And then, there were a few red flags that had come up, but I ignored that because I was so scared. And I think that's the biggest mistake you can make in business, is to make decisions based on fear.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I learned a really harsh lesson really, really young. And I ignored my gut instincts because I didn't trust in myself, I guess, in my voice. And I paid the ultimate price. But now when I look at that, I think that was so necessary to my growth and development as a businesswoman.
Yeah.
Because I learned how to rebuild from ground zero.
Yeah.
And to me, total humiliation.
Yeah, I got a feeling that you're probably going to be a happier person if Zachary had failed and the brands that exist today exist versus if Zachary had scaled the way that it did. Because, Zachary was ahead of his time, but it was still in tune with what was happening in the trends of the retail market, which
totally was very commercial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which you know, for you personally, probably didn't give you, I think in the long run, it probably wouldn't have given you as much fulfillment.
Yeah. Like the creative outlet wasn't, because it was always like, well, what's going to sell? And, you know, we were always making red, navy, black, white dresses. And, you know, we tried a couple of different things, but I think as well, having all these overheads, all these staff, like I really let that pressure compound, and I was making decisions based on what's going to make the most money rather than what actually feeds my soul. And, you know, am I truly expressing my creativity? No, because all these external factors are influencing them. And again, I think as a young woman in business, you know, through lack of experience and I guess just not having that confidence in myself, I was really swayed by external factors, which again, I learned not to do through, you know, to me, what was the worst possible thing that could happen.
You took to, so the business, or you left, the business started going into administration.
Yeah.
You took time off, moved back home through this 5-month sort of exorcism, you could probably call it.
Yeah.
I think you probably realised that you were the only person who could deal with your shit at the time. And I found it really interesting that you wrote down the list, you know, this list.
The list
that was blocking you from living your truest life, was the quote that I had. I was curious, how much have you carried that process to this day? Do you still do things like that where you write down and have a list of shit that's causing you issues?
I do. And I think as humans, like we're constantly evolving and we're facing different challenges and we're facing different parts of ourselves as we're ready. So for me, you know, and I think, I'm sure a lot of people have this, it's been facing a lot of stuff from my childhood and recognizing where the roots of my anxieties and my insecurities stem from, facing them and working through that. I'm constantly doing exercises that kind of hone in on that. And it's challenging, and it's not, I mean, it takes a certain kind of emotional intelligence to recognize, okay, I've got these issues and this is why I think I do. And then working through that, it's not easy. And that, you know, especially in isolation, I was on such a runaway train before, not in the, you know, out of control way, but it was like everything was so busy and I just never had time to deal with things that were coming up. So isolation was actually a really great opportunity for me to deal with some of the things that I kind of knew were there.
Yeah,
but
you hadn't done.
I was like, I can't even deal with this right now. I'm so busy. I don't have time to feel vulnerable.